So because of the weather, we're going to do the icebreaker and meet and greet indoors. And we'll actually jump to the demo, the soil test, which is one of the things that we're going to do today. So Ruben's going to show us. So we have sponsored soil tests by the Northeast Organic Farming Association. Do you want to share a little bit more of how many soil tests we can? Sure. So we are going to test the soil for this garden bed, which is going to be our teaching garden bed. And Ruben will have details of how many gardens, how many soil tests we can do through NOFAMAS. And he's going to also show us how to do how to collect the samples for the testing that he's going to do for the participants that want to get their soil tested.
All right, so basically there's 3 types of soil testing that we're going to be offering. Unfortunately, only 2 of these will we're going to have to raffle. So there's going to be a total of 15 soil tests. The interpretation of results as well. So meaning you take the soil test, I'll show you how to do it. And we'll have all the procedure on how to bring it back to the garden here as well. But what you want to do is, or what you get with that is a interpretation of results of, how much NPK and micronutrients you need, organic matter, things like that, all chemical. The other 2 that I'm going to be offering are a physical and biological test. The physical test, quick overview, it's just the physical properties of the soil. So how does the soil behave? How does it drain? How is the structure? So all of these are actually tests that you do to understand what the physical characteristics are so that our plant's going to be able to send their roots through the soil. So that's the physical portion. The biological portion is one that I do. It's a microscopy portion, and that actually gives you the different life in your soil. You have the right organisms or microorganisms in your soil to cause a nutrient balance for your happy plant. So those 2 last ones will be offered. We'll have 5 available raffles, and for the physical we'll have 3 available. There will be raffles. However, 15 of those will be free of charge with the chemical test and the interpretation. So I'm going to go ahead and actually, if you guys can get closer, we can actually start taking these here.
So the soil tests that you're going to do, the samples that you're going to do right now, Ruben, is that the 15?
Correct.
Okay. I think we have, how many households do we have? Can we have a raise of hands? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 households. How many like people like not living together? I mean, like living
How many individual houses?
Yes, I'm trying to get a raise of hands because I'm trying to see if we have like 15 people or not. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I think we can. I think everybody gets a soil test. Okay. All right. So Ruben's going to show us.
So there's many ways you can complicate this or make it very easy. And we'll kind of go over a few things. So this is a nifty tool to use. Obviously, not everybody actually has this type of tool laying around. I'll show you how to use it anyways. Another thing too is just, simple gardening tool that you can use to get to your soil. The most important thing here is that you want to get to 6 inches deep. And I actually have some instructions that I'll give everyone as well. And the reason why you want to go to 6 inches is because that's where your root system is, right? And you don't want to give a false bias high of your organic matter, because all of your organic matter is going to be on your surface, right? So what you want to do is, for demonstration purposes, just going to clear some of the debris on the top. And we'll start here. I have this marked at my 6 inch. Just going to press that down. So that actually went down my 6 inches. And I'm just going to collect that portion there. However, you guys don't have this tool, and I'm not going to complicate it using it. So an easier way, you can use a spoon, you can use your hands, it doesn't matter. As long as you get into 6 inches deep, that's what you want to do. The other thing too is, are you all growing in raised beds, or how do you?
I have a garden
Straight-
in the front.
straight down?
I have one that's like a square,
Okay.
church.
Okay.
But in my house, I have it on the floor.
Okay. Anybody has like a large plot of land or anything like
Yeah,
that?
that's what I have in there.
Land? Okay.
Yes.
So if you have a large area, and there's specific details on the instructions, if you have a large area, what you want to be doing is collecting a representative sample. So you don't want to go bias and say, well, I'm just going to go and send them this area because it looks really good. You really want the problem areas, right? You want to know what the issue is. So, and collect in many different places. So let's say you have your tool here. Just going to go 6 inches there and create a furrow. And you don't have to be this intrusive, but just so that you can see. So this is at 6 inches. This is actually marked there, 6 inches. And what I want to do is, this is a relatively small area. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to probably collect about 5 of these in this area because, based on this area, I'll collect each corner and one in the middle perhaps, just because it's a small area. If you have a larger area, the best way to collect samples is in an M form. That will give you the most representative area. Now, the instructions will tell you what you want to avoid. Things that are out of the ordinary, things that are you have this one particular spot that gets really puddly over there. Don't collect that sample because it's not representative of your entire area.
And the first like a spot like rock inside there. A lot of rock.
Yes.
Stick to that rock.
Okay.
You can get a better soil.
Yeah, so if you have rocks everywhere, then collect anywhere there are rocks. But if you only have rocks in one area, try to avoid that. Just try to avoid things that are not similar to the rest of the
It's
plot.
only one side that had like more like rocks and portfolio. That's why we already have what to put in that area.
Okay,
Because we just do the beams in the area because we don't have to put it so deep on.
gotcha. Okay. So what you want to do is I'm at the 6 inches there. This is all 6 inches. Take a bucket. Try to avoid metal because you are looking for metals in the analysis. So, although I'm using metal, but probably not the metal that we're looking for anyways. I have actually collected a piece of that. So again, I'll go around. I'm not going to do this now, just so that we can move forward, but I'll be doing the same thing in this area 5 times. Once I have enough, you want about 2 cups of soil, and those 2 cups of soil, you'll mix them in there really good. The laboratory wants you to actually dry them out, but you're basically doing the work for them. So don't worry about that. Just collect your samples, and most important thing is labeling, right? You don't want to be writing your sample information in a piece of paper and putting it inside of your container. The microbes will eat that, and once it gets to the laboratory, you won't have a piece of paper anymore. So you want to make sure that you actually put that on the outside. So you're going to write your sample information on the outside. There's going to be a piece of paper, a chain of custody that goes along with your sample as well. And what you're going to do is you're actually going to put it, you're going to have to make sure that the sample information that's on the piece of paper is the same information on the outside of the bag, so that those 2 things can actually correlate. So you just collect all your sample, put it in the bag, and we're actually going to have
We can collect here, right?
yeah,
Or do you prefer somewhere else?
we can collect here.
Okay.
Collect here.
So we're gonna have a bucket or a container for people to drop off their samples. What do they need to have on the out? Like, are they gonna put their sample in a gallon size storage bag?
Yeah, I can actually hand these out, and I'll also hand out the
Instructions? Okay.
Although I only
And
have 10.
10 of those.
Yeah, 10 instructions in paper. I'll give you guys the information.
Can it
so
be
you can
emailed
download
also?
it. Yeah.
Okay. So, 10 people will receive the instructions.
The sample. Do we have to mix it with soya or just the sample inside it?
No, so all you're gonna do is,
Put the
you know, I mean, I can actually finish this up. Why don't I do that? So that way, there's no doubt. So again, remove the
The area?
organic layer. No, that's fine. Remove the organic layer. Go to 6 inches.
I have a question too.
Yeah.
So if we have a yard that's similar to this, we already have some raised beds.
Yep.
But what is better, having the garden in the raised bed or taking out the raised bed and just using the whole land?
I am a fan of raised beds in New England only because these actually, the fertility in raised beds is actually greater than when you're growing it directly on the ground.
Okay.
And there's also attachments that you can have for these. If you wanted to make a trellis, you can easily put a trellis on these things. If you wanted to create a hoop house over these to extend your season,
Yeah.
it's much easier.
Okay.
So I am a fan of using these. And they also warm up the soil a little faster too.
Okay.
And the advantage is that you're actually bringing in soil the way you want it instead of having to deal with your native soil,
Okay.
which could be a good or a bad thing. Do you know what kind of soil you have?
The raised boxes that I have, I had put a combination of 1/3 peat moss, 1/3 vermiculite, and 1/3 compost.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you have amended your soil already, and you know what your soil's
Well,
like.
I
So
did that like 10 years ago and I haven't really added anything to it since then. I've grown in it for a while, so I don't know what it is now.
good. You'll find out then.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we're going to be looking at is also, because we're in an urban environment, we're also going to be looking at heavy metals. Heavy metals are an issue in urban environments, so we want to make sure that we're not growing in an area where there's poison on the ground.
The 15 tests, Ruben, are they checking for the heavy metals? Or is it just microscopy?
So the 15 tests would be for the chemistry, which would include the heavy metals.
Okay.
There's something more complicated than that, but I could talk to you about that a little later. But we're gonna have to use 2 different labs,
Okay.
just to make it a little cheaper.
Okay.
When you say heavy metals, are you talking about like lead or aluminum? What is a heavy metal?
Yep, lead and arsenic would be the
Arsenic?
2
Okay.
metals of concern that I would want to look for.
Okay. I didn't know arsenic was a metal.
Yeah, so there's with the arsenic, sometimes it's good to understand the history of your site, and know what actually was used for. My backyard, many years ago, was an apple orchard. I have no idea about it, but in old apple orchards, they used to actually use arsenic.
Oh.
So it's always good to know what's in the land. The good thing about this is that a lot of heavy metals tend to complex out in high organic systems, and we can go over that in some other portions of the series, and when we get your results too, actually.
Well, no, strawberries they spread. Yeah, they spread. Yeah. Right now, I have a whole bunch of strawberry plants that they tear them. They're redoing the whole garden. They're tearing them
I know this has nothing to do with the soil testing that I'm doing right now, but I don't know if you guys can actually see these, but there's actually 2 burrows here. See those?
Oh yeah.
Those are earthworms. So, rule of thumb: if you actually open up your soil to 1 square foot, the rule is if you actually find 10 or more earthworms, you have a healthy system. That's one indicator of a good healthy system: 10 earthworms in 1 square foot. And you know, and these are also good indicators too, because a lot of times there's 3 different types of earthworms: ones that live on the surface, one that live right below the surface, and the deeper ones. So those are there right there. So whenever you see those biopores, it's always a good indication. Just because you're not seeing the earthworm, a lot of times when just disturbing these things, they would just burrow down further. So you may not see them, but if you see those biopores, that's a good sign.
And you see big tunnels, does that mean he has snakes?
If you see big tunnels, what?
Like big burrows that are like this big?
Yeah, it's
Oh,
probably
chipmunks?
it's probably
Oh,
rodent.
okay.
Yeah, those
I have
larger
some
ones are
chickens
turning really
in
good.
Yeah. We have a chipmunk too, I just never seen them recently.
Our squirrels bully the chipmunks and
Oh yeah?
chase them away.
Oh, maybe ours do too. The chipmunks stay on one side and the chipmunk stays on another side. And so our squirrels look like yeah, they our squirrels.
So that's about what you need. About 2 cups. And you can estimate this, not, you know. If you could do more, better. That way, the labs always like to have more material to play with, because accidents do happen. So, obviously that's more than 2 cups, but again, it's better to have more than less. So are you gonna go ahead?
Label it. You need
You're gonna label
something.
this? Actually, it's that green bag over there. Actually, just toss that over. Thank you. So just show you guys quickly here. I'm going to be handing out the instructions of what I did here. And also, this is a chain of custody. The most important thing here is that you write down the sample ID and make sure that sample ID actually corresponds to the same sample ID that's on your bag. Make it a unique name. You can name it something fun, you know. It doesn't have to be my garden or whatever, you know. Name it anything that's a unique ID. And then you fill out all the other pertinent information, your email address, name, you know, just follow the instructions on this.
One question. If you have a bed that has berries, raspberries or blueberries, the branches and stuff are still in, should we take a sample from that box too?
Without disturbing your roots, I would say, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
All my other boxes, everything died down.
no,
but in
that's a
that-
good thing that you brought that up, because berries tend to actually have different fertility needs than most plants, specifically pH.
Okay.
But we're only offering one test. So it's up to you whether or not that's, if the berries are actually just a marginal, small section of your whole garden, I would leave those alone. Don't test
I have
those.
10 boxes like this.
And they all have
They all have
blueberries, or-
different things. One had tomatoes, one had corn and green beans, one had ground cherries, one has the berries.
But those are the only perennials, right?
Yeah, that's the only
Yeah,
one.
I would avoid the perennials, and that goes for anyone else too.
Okay.
If I were consulting with you and you were, if you wanted to know that, I would say take a sample, an additional sample, because those need something else.
Okay.
Specifically for the pH. They like a lower pH than most. Have you ever had to do any amendments for the pH? Or?
I'm just learning now. I don't know what that is.
All right.
I mean, I know about pH. I didn't know about the soil pH and stuff. So.
No, that's great. That's great. So, all right. So yeah. So you just avoid those. Avoid anything that's abnormal. Make sure that you're staying within what's considered alike. So, and I mean that's pretty much it. And we'll have an area in here where you can just come a specific date and an area where we can just dump them. I'll collect them. I'll probably have to subsample them too, because I'll be splitting them to send to another lab. And go from there.
Yeah, I think we, when Ruben and I met, I think we decided the deadline being Monday for you to drop off. Not this Monday, 2 weeks from Monday. 2 weeks from tomorrow. Wait, Monday, April 4th, is it? Is that the?
Yeah,
I think
Yeah,
by
that's a
noon.
week from this Monday.
Yeah, a week from this Monday. You can bring it here. We'll have I'll figure out, between Ruben and I, we'll figure out where you're gonna drop off the sample. How do they make sure that, Ruben, how do you want them to attach the paperwork and their soil
I would
sample?
say put them in a different baggie.
Okay, put it in another bag, right?
Yeah, and that's or
Okay.
or they don't have to be. As long as the information on this bag corresponds to the information on the other bag, it should be all set.
And then
What do you mean corresponds to the information in the other bag? 'Cause so they're gonna complete the documents.
Yep.
And they're gonna have this soil test. So should they rubber band it together, the document and the,
They can, but it's not necessary.
Okay.
Because you're gonna have the
because we're gonna have a lot of samples. So how do we know whose sample? How do we make sure that all the samples we're collecting, they don't get mixed up, right?
right. So to
Maybe-
make sure that you're gonna have your name on here,
Mm-hmm.
and you're also gonna have your name on the paper.
Great. So everybody got that? Just make sure that you have your ID and your name is matching with your paperwork. Okay.
Here, actually, let's.
So we'll wrap up this section right now with Ruben, and then we're gonna head over to the to the art museum. Sit down, and we'll continue the rest of the agenda. I want to walk you through what the No Dig Garden is going to look like for the rest of the season, and we'll introduce each other, and we'll tell you a little bit what a No Dig Garden is. But really, the today is orientation. So we're going to familiarize ourselves with what to do. We're going to have some items every month that we're featuring that will be sponsored. And so you'll be receiving that information in those email communications. So it's very important that we have your emails and that we have your information so that you can receive the notifications from us. If you need to bring anything for the garden program, or if we're featuring any raffles or featuring any free products, we want to make sure that the households that are attending receive whatever we're featuring. So go ahead, Ruben.
Yeah, no. So this is basically what you're gonna want to do here, and they don't necessarily have to be together as long, again, as that the information on the outside of this matches the information on the outside of this. Any questions? Okay, good.
And we are sponsoring one test, and those details will reshare everything in a written communication. But if you feel that you want more tests done, we'll also include, what is that cost if you're interested. So one will be a sponsored test, and if you want other tests, we'll share, all that information.